So welcome back to Mountain Boys. Today I'm going to talk some about what the beginning fly tyer might need to make their own flies at home. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why you would tie your own flies. Cost is one. I mean, flies are really expensive at shops. Specific flies, if you need something specific that you can't seem to find anywhere, or you want to try it out, or you just want to get more involved in the sport and hobby. And quite honestly, I enjoy tying as much or more as I do fishing. It gives me some nice, quiet, hands-on hobby time that I really enjoy. So, what are some of the things that you absolutely need when you're going to start out tying flies? First and foremost is a vise. This is an old hand-me-down vise from my dad. It's probably as old or older than I am, and it worked well for my dad for a lot of years, and it's served me great for, going on probably 20 years now. So I haven't really ever upgraded this one because it still does what I need. I mean, it doesn't have some features that would be a little bit more useful. So when it's locked in, the jaws won't rotate. You can't really turn your fly easily while it's locked in to work at it at different angles. But I think I get by just fine without that feature. It also has to be set up on the edge of your table or the edge of your bench. So, I mean, that's a limitation. It's working like right in front of you. You can't have it on top of your bench like some that, come with their own stand like this. But, I've used it and I've gotten used to it and it works fine. So, you need a vise. Probably next are bobbins. There are different styles. This is the one that I like the most, and I'll show you a difference here. It has a shorter tube right here. These are easier to thread, and all my bobbins have either a plastic or a ceramic insert on the end of the tube there, and that'll help you not break your thread. So when you're getting tight wraps and everything else like that, if you have a sharp metal edge on your bobbin, you're likely to snap and break your thread. So having those plastic or ceramic inserts on the end are really key. Also, the tension that the bobbins put on, that's important. You want enough tension to where just gravity, they'll hold themselves down. You don't want your spool to just unravel as soon as you let it drape. But you also don't want it to be so tight that when you're trying to pull out more thread, you put an undue amount of tension there on the thread and you risk breaking it again. And you can adjust those a little bit. I mean, if they're tight, you can just kind of gently work them out like that and loosen them up a little bit. So, they make bobbing threaders. I don't ever really use them. I find that if you're using, thicker thread like 6/0 here, you can just wet it down with your fingers and you can carefully guide it through. If you're using thinner thread like 8/0 and you're having trouble getting it in, sometimes I might wax the thread a little bit first to be able to get it in, and then wet it with your fingers again, run that down, and that'll help. So, bobbing threader, no, don't need it, don't use it. Beeswax, that's a really good thing to do when you're using, unwaxed thread and you're tying dry flies and things like that. And yeah, good all around. Hunk a little beeswax, and I've probably had this one for, again, as long as I've had the vise. Scissors. I have 3 pair of scissors that I primarily use. This larger set right here I only use for cutting hair. So if I'm using deer hair or elk hair, something like that, I'll use these scissors to trim that exclusively. I have a set of scissors that's probably duller than heck right now. I use it for, you know, cutting thicker materials, maybe cutting wire on occasion, things that I don't want to use my nice sharp tying scissors on that would dull out these scissors. So really I only use these scissors for trimming thread, for any of the fine detail work that I'll use when I'm tying. So there's my scissors. Hackle pliers, you know, they come in shapes, sizes, and varieties too. I might have gotten this as a gift from my uncle. It's a rotating hackle plier with a rubber tip. I don't use this one a whole lot. I find that the rubber tip is sometimes just even a little too grabby on fine hackle, and I'm likely to break it. By and large, I just use a standard hackle plier, and it's worked fine for me all these years. A bodkin, you know, you use this to pick out small mistakes that you've made. You get some hackle fibers caught in a thread wrap, you use these to pick them out. Anytime you might need a sharp needle tool, you just go to your bodkin, and I use this a lot. And finally, your whip finisher, if you use one. Some people, like my dad, he never used a whip finisher in his life. I think he had one that he gave me one time. It was an old Thompson-style whip finisher with a little spring arm, and he never used it. He would just throw a series of half hitches over his flies to finish them up, and he would call it good. So, entirely necessary? No. I liked using it because you get a really nice thread head, you get consistent wraps, and you get a really nice finish knot on your fly. And my uncle, I think, gave me these again, and it took a little bit of getting used to. After I'd learned to use the Thompson whip finisher, this one was just a little bit different, but I find I like this one a lot. So we talked about bobbins, we talked about the vise, we talked about scissors, some of the other little tools. Another thing that I'll find really indispensable, and this is when I'm tying anything with deer or elk hair, things like that, is a hair stacker. So you would cut your hair, you would stick it all point down in here, and then literally tap it, and what that does is it stacks all of your hair evenly on the end. So then you would carefully take this out and take out your hair, so when you're ready to tie on, it's all nice and even. This I use a lot. So beyond that, you might need some type of head cement or glue. I tend to prefer just clear nail polish. And what I've done here, I've actually cut the bristles of that brush down to have some finer points there on the brush. And you never need a lot of this. And I find that clear nail polish, by and large, works very well. So, some other flies, you use epoxy on the fly and the wing case, and I'd say just find your favorite flavor of 5-minute clear epoxy. I mean, fly shops sometimes will try to sell you, a specific type of 5-minute epoxy that they might keep in stock, and they'll charge you a lot more for it. So here I have a new one that I bought probably years ago now that I haven't even cracked open. It'll last you forever. Just be sure to properly close your caps and everything. And that brings you to storage. So, some way or shape or form, keep yourself organized. I like these little stackable trays right here. I'll keep all number of things in them. So I'll have a drawer for hooks. I'll have a drawer for hackles I use a lot. Some hair, dubbing, flash material, post material. Over on this side, I'll keep a bunch of my threads and wire. Then I'll keep little containers with various size and colors of bead heads. So you can see just little things like that to make yourself a little more organized and be able to find everything when you need it. And that, I think, is all you really need. I mean, beyond some of these basic tools and a space to do it, then it's just materials. And that's where you can really spend your money, I think. Materials are expensive. So buying quality materials is good, but once you have a good stock of them built up, I mean, they'll last you quite a while, and you'll find you'll buy something and you'll use a lot more of some things than others. So that's a whole nother discussion in and unto itself. I do want to make a point here that places will try to sell you starter kits, and that's fine. You'll probably get a lot of what you need in those starter kits, but I would be careful about buying, the ultimate starter kit that would have, 20 million tools and everything in there, because again, you'll find stuff in those kits that you'll just never use, and you shelled out a lot of extra money for something that you don't even need. This is Mountain Boy. Go ahead and leave a comment if you like what you've seen. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be trying to do at least one tying video per week, sometimes more, and we'll keep it going from there. So like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.